Hello, and welcome to the Blueprint Roundtable. I'm your host, Matt Lewis, joined by Chrissy Micromanage Manzano and Emily Closing
God.
Bell. So the Blueprint Roundtable is an ongoing series with our team and occasional guests. In each session, we typically ask the team a simple question related to trends and recruiting talent and go-to-market for discussion and debate. This week's question, and Emily, we're going to go to you first. Is it a red flag if a candidate does not have LinkedIn? The clock starts now.
Yes.
Okay.
Here's why. Okay.
Just think about it. Think about it.
Take
I
your time.
totally appreciate the angst that comes to social media. I don't post a ton outside of it, outside of like LinkedIn professionally, right? Like I just don't really engage much with it. Like I'll post like random pictures, but I totally get it. I've tweeted twice ever in my life. So I understand being against social media. However, when you are, it's a professional profile. So it's really there, I think, as like a way to basically say what's on my resume is true because it's publicly facing. And if it's not true, someone somewhere is going to know. Right. So it's a really great way to kind of prove like what you're saying on your resume is fact. At the very least, you've worked at a certain place for a certain time, and that's proving it, right? So it is a red flag. It's a red flag for almost every employer that I've ever talked to on the recruiting side. That it is just for whatever reason, it really freaks people out. So and I think it's because there's just no checks and balances available, and like you want to be able to trust people and you want to know like believe what they're telling you is true, but there's bad eggs out there and they ruin it for all of us. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think have the profile, keep it basic at the very minimum, and then just have it out there. You don't even have to have your own personal picture on it if you're worried about potential biases coming into play. Like age bias is one of the reasons why sometimes individuals don't have a LinkedIn profile, but put a picture of your dog or your favorite vacation spot. You don't have to have it be you. So, Chrissy, what do you think?
I mean, I don't know that I would call it a red flag. I would call it yellow, and I'll tell you why. I think it depends on what
That was
industry.
not an option. Just kidding.
Well, I think it depends on what industry you're in. Like
Yeah, that's fair.
when we used to work at Motive, right? Like the half people we were trying to call sell to, or you all were even calling, or the other teams are calling, didn't have LinkedIn, right? Because
True.
that industry didn't have that. Or if you look at contractors who have done contract work and been all over, like they don't have that there. I definitely think it's a question worth asking, right? Now, or let's say like someone just graduated from college. I don't know what colleges are doing today, and maybe I don't know how much they're talking about like you need to have a LinkedIn. Maybe they are, and then that
They're
makes
for sure
sense.
telling people to have a LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, it's been a while.
There's no
I
way
don't.
they're not. Yeah.
My college was all about like your Facebook, and they're gonna print it off, and now it's like no, like, um, but I just I think it just depends on the industry. Like in tech and in SaaS, like absolutely.
Yeah.
I can see why someone would want to understand like why do you not have one, right? But I guess my initial view of like just trying to not assume bad intent from someone I don't know, because I don't like things that are like, okay, if you don't have this, this equals X,
Yeah.
right? Like this makes
Yeah.
you this when I've never met you, I've never talked to you. And so I'm going to just say like you should still have a conversation or just like dig in as a recruiter, right? Like on our side, we can ask that, hey, why don't you have a LinkedIn? And I can't think of anything off the top of my head, but I feel like I've asked people that before and there were like some legitimate reasons. So I'm just always more about like be
Witness
curious
protection.
versus
They
yeah.
don't want to know.
Yeah. Frequent.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Well, and I can't remember honestly, I feel like there was a woman once that didn't have one and she told me why, and I'm like spacing on what the reason was. But anyways, all that, and maybe I just remember it being valid, but I just feel like, be curious versus assuming bad intent. Like if they have all the things that you're looking for on paper, like have that conversation before dismissing it. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say yellow for sure. In some cases, depending on the industry, red flag. But it is a common thing to where I think if you don't have one, get one. It takes 2 seconds. You don't have to put. Well, actually, I think it's more of a red flag if you don't have a picture. To be honest with you, like I think that's kind of weird. And if you're like, if you're concerned with age bias, like Emily said, put a picture of your dog or something, but like don't look like a bot. You know what I mean? Like a fake profile. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's my view.
Interesting. Good points
Yeah.
of view. Yeah, I think I hear both sides. I definitely think in our industry, it's definitely heavy orange, if not red flag for the majority of hiring managers right
Ooh,
away.
These
new
colors
color.
we have here.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah. Like when you're going out in the ocean to play and it's like purple means jellyfish, orange means undertow will drag you out to Argentina. That's kind of where I
I
got that
like
from.
it. I
But
like the analogy.
I do
Didn't know
think
that.
in our quote me on the quotes. I think in our industry where we live, I think it is. I do see it being more of a red flag. But to Chrissy's point, like there's all kinds of industries out there where LinkedIn's not common. I've talked to multiple candidates recently that don't have LinkedIn. Um, when I speak with them, you know, I trust what they're saying, right? Trust would verify. I can't verify without LinkedIn, but I do get the sense by the way they're able to describe their experience that it's real and relevant.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, most hiring managers are going to want to see a LinkedIn in the SaaS tech world, and I'll be upfront with the candidate in that scenario and say, hey, you need to have LinkedIn to be able to move forward, especially if it's a part of their recruiting or multi-threading tactic, not recruiting, their prospecting or multi-threading tactics, right? And I've had several candidates that have created LinkedIn just for that. And then I've had other people say, I'm not going to do it. And I say, well, unfortunately, you know, that kind of concludes this call, which is not always taken
Why do
well.
they not have LinkedIn though? Have they told you? Like, have you found any valid reasons?
No. Well, one woman was coming from basically like retail sales and moving into a
Okay.
SaaS org. So kudos to that SaaS org for taking those type of candidate conversations. And she put a LinkedIn together the same day and sent it over to me, and I gave her some feedback, and then she was live. And then another individual I spoke to probably about a month ago just said that he had it, but he never used it. And he got tired of it and was trying to remove all of his data from public access, and so he just doesn't have it anymore. But he had what made it key for me. I'm glad you asked the question, Chrissy. What made it key for me is he volunteered 3 references for his 3 most previous companies, and so for me, the references could offset not having LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
So-
That's a really good point. I think it's definitely like when I've asked it's more of a red flag when you ask why and there's a sense like you get the sense that the person's uncomfortable with the question. It's like in this day and age, if you choose not to have one, that's fine, but be prepared for people to ask why and have a really good like conversation about it. You know, don't go in with defensiveness. I think if you understand, especially in this market from a tech sales standpoint, like people are going to expect you to have one. And if you don't, expect to be asked about it and have a really great reason why or confidence in your explaining why. And like you said, Matt, I mean, having those proactive offer for, you know, letters of recommendation or
Right.
connecting with people. I mean, that's, I mean, it's a super simple way to kind of get around it and it
agreed.
not being an
Yeah.
issue. But when there's like a sense of defensiveness, that's when I'm like, yeah.
Well, and that's a good point too, because you know, one of the I feel like from an interview standpoint, people set up questions or views on things of assuming that everyone you talk to is going to be a liar, somewhat of a sociopath, and you know is going to just do all these things, right? And let me tell you something: the people or was a bad performer, right? Or they had it so easy where like I don't want people where all the sales were just coming into them. By the way, let me know where that organization is. I'd love to like go there one day. I've not
Yeah.
met an organization yet where sales just rolled in. I don't know where that place is, but I'd love to know. You know, side note, just DM me on LinkedIn. But we set that up. It's like when people do bad or they had a bad experience or they were the problem at a company, it's actually pretty easy to tell when you have a
Yeah.
conversation with them. Like they're not, I think people think that again, a sociopath is like an amazing liar and has no conscience. And that's why they can lie so easily. But if you have your questions set up for the normal person, like literally 98, 99% of the time, you're going to be able to figure out like, and very easily, you know, I'm able to go, okay, this was something that this person was the problem, right?
Yeah.
And the reason that it's easy, you all, is because that individual normally doesn't have the self-awareness to know they're the problem. So they're willing to like share some of that information with you. Like, yeah, this manager was awful and this manager was awful, you know, and they thought I had an attitude problem and I didn't think so. Like they'll say stuff like that because they are so not self-aware. That's why they're a problem. They don't have that self-awareness. So, you don't need to, I'm just saying that more piggybacking from what Emily said, because
Looking at
when you
me
have
as you say it, I don't know how I feel about
Oh,
you.
she's actually describing you word
Did
for
she
word.
just
So.
slack you my name? Is that what's happening?
okay, well,
We're at
in that
time anyway, so we'll let you off the hook, Chrissy. But this is good. Thank you both. Those are good counterpoints. I think this is a very valid discussion, especially in a remote first world where some people are likely trying to have multiple jobs and collect W-2s from multiple employers, in which case they probably would
Yeah.
remove themselves from LinkedIn, right? I think that's a very real possibility. So this is a timely, relevant topic, and maybe we'll readdress it a year from now.
yes, maybe our opinions will change.
That's
Don't
right.
hold us to it.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right. Bye, y'all.